Imagine walking into your classroom and knowing that every student has an opportunity to participate in meaningful discussion, not just the students who are comfortable raising their hands. Collaborative technology tools like Padlet help make that possible. My name is Heather Dorman, and today I am demonstrating how educators can use Padlet to facilitate collaborative digital book clubs and literature discussions in a middle school classroom. Padlet is an online collaborative bulletin board where students can share ideas, use text, images, videos, links, documents, and comment in one shared learning space. For example, I'm using Refuge by Alan Gratz, but this same format could be adapted for almost any novel, short story, informational text, primary source, or content area reading. I selected this shelf layout because it organizes the discussion into clear instructional stages. Each column, as you can see, represents a different point in the reading process, making it easy for students to follow and for teachers to monitor participation. I also customized the background and color-coded each post to create an inviting learning environment and visual organization look to it, to help color code and be able to pinpoint students' different responses as well. I intentionally organized this Padlet around the reading process. Students begin by making predictions before reading. So you look at column 1 and it's before reading predictions. Then I moved on to during reading, character analysis. The third column represents quotes that matter, meaningful quotes, however you would like to word it. Fourth column represents identifying themes and real-world connections. That's imperative when we're doing reading. We want those students to make those connections. And then participate in student-led discussion is our fifth and final column where the discussion questions are. Now I'm going to break each column down. Section 1 is the first section which focuses on predictions. So before students even begin the part and diving into the novel, so to speak, we want them to post what they think will happen and support their predictions with evidence from the text. That's always what we want to do, is make sure they are referring back to evidence from the text. This supports inferencing skills. It also gives teachers a quick formative assessment of student understanding before moving forward. Now, the second section, we want it to focus on character analysis. Students choose a character, and I'm just referencing the characters in Refuge. So they can focus on Joseph, Isabel, or Maimond and explain how that character is developing throughout the novel. And I gave them an example here. Rather than simply listing character traits, students must support their thinking with that textual evidence that I was talking about that strengthens their reading comprehension. Number one, that's why we do it. And then also it gives us evidence-based reasoning, which in turn is what we're doing, the literary analysis. Now, as you can see, each column is already pre-done. That's the main thing. You want to set this up before you just go into a lesson. You want it organized. You want to make sure that each column is labeled and there is an example provided. So let's go to the third section now, which is the quote that matters. I posted it as a reflection. Let's try that again. So the third section is talking about quote that matters. And so we want to ask students to reflect on a meaningful quote or moment from the text. This helps students slow down and think about the author's message, the emotional impact of the story, and how specific moments will contribute to the larger meaning of the novel. This section is also helpful for students who make connection deeply with the text, but that they need that structured space to be able to explain their thinking. This would allow them to do that. The fourth section over here, it is focusing on theme and real-world connections. In this example, the theme is hope. Students explain how the theme appears in the novel and how it connects to real-world experiences. One feature I appreciate is that students can comment on one another's responses. For example, a student might add that hope connects all three families. Even though they live in different places and times, this allows students to build on classmates' thinking and extends discussion beyond a traditional whole class conversation. And as you can see, I provided an example where they can go right here in this section, click on the comment, and as you can see, it'll take them to a different screen. You can add a comment. I agree. Hope is the thing. They can add their comments. They'll come back out of the Padlet, and then their comment will appear under the theme wherever they selected that comment box at. Moving on to the final section, which is our column 5, it's discussion questions. Instead of only responding to teacher-created questions, I wanted to formulate where students could participate in student-led inquiry. And so I added this column. This question asked students to identify which refugee's journey has impacted them the most and support their answer with evidence from the novel. And that way, that keeps this discussion grounded in the text while still allowing students to share personal connections. I'm going to show how you again can go in and add a comment. So if I were a student in my class talking about refuge, I could click right under this discussion question, go to the comment box, and I would answer this question. Which refugee's journey has the greatest impact on me so far? I feel that Joseph has the most impact on my life because I can relate to him having early responsibilities in his family. Then the student could go in and talk about how they had early responsibilities in their own family. Maybe they're the oldest and had someone pass away or had to take on ownership of watching their little brother and sister. And then they could add the comment. The next thing I wanted to show you about Padlet is how that you can post. So there's two different options. You can go over here and post here with the orange where it's plus and a post, or they can go right up under the sections and titles that I already have for each section. So I'm gonna go under the quote that matters, add the plus. I would just put my quote here, and then I would write something. I've cheated just a little bit because I already pulled a quote. They would have the books in hand where they would go and pull a quote that is meaningful to them. The one that I chose is geared towards middle school, and I felt like they could make a connection with it. Head down, hoodie up, eyes on the ground, be unimportant, blend in, disappear. That was how you avoided the bullies. They could add a picture if they wanted to. There's all kinds of other tools in Padlet that they could use. I don't want to expose them to too much at one time because we are doing a book study, so there's a lot in that already. But there's so many different things and so many capabilities of this program that I absolutely love. We'll go ahead and hit publish, and then that will pop right down underneath the section quote that matters, and you'll see there's a little scroll so the Padlet is easily able to maneuver, and you can scroll down and see which student posted the quote. As a teacher, this is great because it gives you an opportunity to see who's participating and also do formative assessments and check in on your students to see how they're understanding. One great thing about Padlet as well is the reaction and comment area. We've already done the comments, but the reaction. So they can go in and say, let's go back to the quote that we just posted. And say I'm a student and I see that post, I can go and interact with this other student. I can say I love it. I can give it a thumbs up if I would like instead of that. And so it's able to be interactive. The teacher can also share the Padlet through a link or a QR code, which makes that very easy for students to access from Chromebook or other classroom devices that they're using. So this is another added feature that I really like in Padlet. This lesson connects directly to the TPACK framework because the technology, pedagogy, and content are intentionally integrated. The technology is Padlet, which provides a collaborative digital learning environment. The pedagogy includes collaborative learning, formative assessments, inquiry, student voice, and discussion. The content focuses on literary skills such as prediction, character analysis, closed reading, theme development, textual evidence, and reflection. In this example, technology is not replacing instruction. Let's be clear on that. It is enhancing instruction by giving every student an opportunity to participate, collaborate, and think deeply about the text that we are focusing on, which is Refuge by Alan Gratz. Although I demonstrated a Padlet using Refuge by Alan Gratz, this same instructional strategy could easily be adapted for other novels, nonfiction texts, science investigations, historical documents, research projects, digital citizenship, lessons, and you could use it as a professional development for teachers. I mean, the list just goes on and on. As a school librarian, I value tools like Padlet because they support collaboration. We want to get our kids motivated to learn, and collaboration is a key into helping that. We also want them to be able to be critical thinkers. We want them to communicate, and we want to have meaningful student engagement across content areas. And so that's why that is why I chose this technology tool. Thank you for watching my demonstration.